Yeah. Today is the day, boys. We finally get to work in a 2J. We're gonna step away from the chassis and all the sheet metal work that Dom's been doing, and we can focus on dressing the 2J because we can finally put this thing in the engine bay, put the transmission on, and make a transmission mount. Get this thing fitted, then do intercooler piping, intercooler, and finish up the engine bay. So we're actually getting really close, and I have a bunch of rad parts to put on this car. I have a bunch of rad parts to put on the engine right now, so I'm gonna walk you guys through it real quick. So first off, we have the G-Force GSR 4-speed dog box transmission, and I'm actually borrowing this from Steph while mine is currently being made or assembled by RTS, Race Tech Services. So thanks, Steph, for letting me borrow this for mock-up. And then we're gonna be doing the KRC power steering pump setup with the Greddy bracket. We have our DC power engineering alternator. This thing is fresh, well, rebuilt fresh. This came from one of the pro cars. We have our pulley setup for the KRC pump right here, which drives off of the front of the ATI damper, just like that. We have our bell housing adapter for the transmission. We have our throw-up bearing from Tilton. We have the Raddan lower and upper water neck. These are really sweet. It's just a -16 ORB fitting that screws in there, so really adjustable. And then what I'm really stoked on is the new Garrett G35 1050, which Dylan Hughes has been running.
Did you say that I can have and keep this?
No, I did not. No,
oh.
no.
Sorry, I just
sorry, wrong one. I have one for you maybe, but not right now.
I overheard you and I thought you said take this, so I'm sorry.
Don't get too excited. Continue. So, G35 1050 from Garrett. This is one of their newer turbos, and Dylan Hughes put this on his 3-liter 2JZ and made 867 wheel horsepower at 31 PSI. So the thing definitely is well matched. It spools really good, and it's gonna be a ripper on this engine for sure. And then I have my older Nameless Performance stainless steel manifold, which is still ripping. We just gotta change the V-band. So Dom will trim this off, weld this one on, and we'll be all set for the turbo. And then last but not least, the ACT triple plate clutch. This is what we ran in a pro car. The performance of it on it is awesome. They last a full season. We swap them out halfway through just because. We always do a mid-season major overhaul, but these clutches can definitely last a full 8 rounds of Formula D at over 1,000 horsepower, which is really cool. Let me walk you through the actual specs on the engine. So this is one of my older race engines from back in Nameless Performance days, I think like 2016. So this thing has a 3.4 liter BC Racing stroker kit in it, 272 cams, it's VVTi, 12:1 compression ratio. So this thing should really spool that Garrett G35 1050 really well. It is still wet sump, it is not a dry sump engine, and it has been tried and true. It's been my old trusty motor in a street car for a long time. Drift Garage Season 4 actually. So it hasn't ever made a ton of power. We never pushed it past 700. At most of its life, it's made about 650, which for you guys know a built 2JZ isn't that much. So she's just broken in, I'd say. And we're gonna throw some more power at her, maybe make about 750 for this setup on a conservative side. And I'm pumped. We'll just see what 25 PSI does. Whatever that makes is pretty much probably gonna be good. I already washed the engine, so it's nice and clean. And now we can basically just get into it. First up, we're gonna reseal the oil pan and the upper pan because that was leaking. And then also the sandwich plate was also leaking, so we'll reseal that. All right, guys, just scraped gaskets for about probably about an hour, cleaning all up. Came out pretty good though. So we are basically ready to seal this thing up with some Permatex RTV. She's sealed up, baby. I did okay on the RTV, a little heavy in a couple spots, but overall not too bad. All right, boys, get a little thread locker blue on here. Oh yeah, just a little dab, nothing crazy. And this bolt does the belt tensioner. You want to make sure that thing stays in, because if it comes off, then your belt comes off, then you are totally RF'd. So I usually just throw a little bit of thread locker on there. Got a little anti-seize on the shaft, just to make sure she's all freed up, ready to rock. All right, we got the lower water neck on, looks sick. And I'm about to put the upper on right now, and Dan sends a whole kit with an O-ring and the plugs, depending on what sensor you're gonna run on the bottom here. Stoked, man. Get this thing on right now. Progress, baby. Water neck's on. Belt tensioner, alternator bracket, KRC power steering pump. So this is all on. This is the Gumout relocation mount off the side of the oil pump. And then you're gonna see, I'm gonna put on next the ATI crank damper, which is gonna have the pulley that comes off the front of it that will run the KRC power steering pump. I love getting new pots. All right, it's turbo time, boys. Gotta do a little modification to make this thing happy, but Dom is on the case, so we should be good. While Dom's getting the V-Band situated on the exhaust manifold, let me walk you guys through what I did so far. Besides a little bit more cleaning, we got Rad Dan, lower water neck, alternator bracket, alternators on from DC Power. We got the upper water neck on. I still don't know what sensor I'm gonna run, so I left those open for now. And then we have ATI crank damper. We have the KRC adapter kit with the Grady Performance bracket running off the side of the OCD Tuerck spec oil pump. And then you need a different pulley system, obviously, that bolts to the front of the ATI damper to run that. But that's all sweet. And then this is the flow valve that you can change for the different feel, so it like higher and lowers the pressures. And then I had a brand new plastic lower cover that I threw on there, nice and fresh. Had some black hardware too, make it look all super proper. Yahtzee. This is the Naval's Performance Manifold, the one we ran on a Pro Car and still run on the Pro Car. Well, the Pro Car that I sold, but I've also ran this in a street car for a while, and it has the anti-lag port. So this is the anti-lag pipe that goes right into the center of the collector right up here. And that shoots, you can see it here, this one right here. And that air shoots all the blow-off valve pressurized air straight into the turbine housing, that then reacts with some retarded timing and extra fuel that gets dumped into the turbo and combusts in the turbine housing. And that's what allows the boost to be about, be controlled to about 30 PSI off throttle, so that when you step right back into it, you're already fully spooled up and at full power.
Should probably just cut that thing off.
The other really cool thing about this manifold is it's not made out of schedule. It's made out of stainless steel, so the tubes are a lot thinner. And it's been super strong because it was welded really well by Naval's Performance, and then Dom had to weld a couple different V-bands on here as we changed a few different turbo setups, and now we're on to the G35-1050. There we go, baby. Now we can get this thing on the engine, put the turbo on, maybe clock it. Probably not going to do lines today, but we'll just get it on there, make it look pretty, and then get the trans on and get that thing in the car. Oh yeah. Let's drop that turbo on here. All right, boys, it is time to bolt this transmission up and then get this thing in the engine bay. And then we'll make a tranny mount. Then we can move on to intercooler piping, and get the rest of the engine bay tied together. One thing I actually forgot about was you have to remove the factory transmission mount in order to even get a racing transmission in its car, because the factory or OEM transmission is so thin, and the mount is really big underneath in a transmission tunnel, so it creates just not enough room for the GSR box to fit in here. So Dom's busy already. We got to remove this entire tranny mount and to open it up so it'll look just like this right here. All right, well, Dom's still working on that. I got the motor mounts in. Drop the steering rack in order to get to the bolts on the back side of this. But definitely not as much of a pain in the ass as this stock transmission mount. Yo! Oh my God, it's finally time, dudes. We're gonna put this frickin' motor in the East Coast Car for its first time. I mean, it's gonna come right back out, but we gotta build the transmission mount and the other stuff. I am just stoked to finally engine in the engine bay of a car. It's one of those things that makes you feel like way further ahead and way more accomplished than you actually are, because there's still 1,000 things to do, but just seeing the engine in the engine bay makes you feel stoked. All right, we massaging her. She massaging. Oh, you way off. Kick leg over, dude.
Alright, lower it down some. Jack in the back.
Jack in the back. Okay. Woo! She looking fancy. Oh yeah. What do you guys think? What do you think? All right, the motor's in, sits pretty much where we expected it to. This is probably our 20th time doing this. But right now, I guess we can get started on the transmission mount. So these are going to be the brackets that weld to the chassis.
Yep.
Can't just weld a brace for the trans mount to that sheet metal. Since the OEM transmission mount was taken out, you need to add in more structural support before you can weld or bolt a bar side to side.
It's like angled here, but I mean that really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Could be angled forward a little bit.
Oh, this looks pretty freaking good. What are we tapping these to? M8125?
Yep.
Because before this was what?
I mean, I just wanted more threads engaged than just the nut.
Okay.
So now it's got the full thing.
Yep.
That's straight.
Yo, look at that, dude.
And then that is gonna get welded in there and shaped.
Okay. Shape them, tack it, prep, finish weld. Done. Good tack, good tack.
Of course.
See those two little dimples? That's what we're looking for. Yeah, looks sweet.
We just have to cap those insides and weld it. Smash it down so it fits.
I'm gonna throw a few more welds on there first.
No, like if I slit that a little bit, I could bang it down.
Trans mount is done, baby.